I call this meeting the Property Tax Division to order pursuant Rule 10.01. The first order of business is that we need to take a roll call to determine who is present. The clerk, Mr. Peterson, will now take the roll.
Chair Joachim.
Present.
Joachim present. Vice Chair Gomez.
Gomez present.
Gomez present. Representative Hertas.
Hertas present.
Hertas present. Representative Anderson.
Anderson present.
Anderson present. Representative Becker Finn, it will be joining us shortly. Representative Fisher.
Fisher present.
Fisher present. Representative Green.
Present.
Green present. Representative Hassan. Representative Hassan. Representative Herr.
Present.
Herr present. Representative Marquardt.
Marquardt present.
Marquardt present. Representative Mortensen.
Mortensen present.
Mortensen present. Representative Pelowski.
Pelowski present.
Pelowski present. Representative Torkelson.
Torkelson present.
Torkelson present. Madam Chair, there's a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And I want to thank both Mr. Peterson and Ms. Sirkvenek and the rest of the staff that helped us put this meeting together today. It is a long one with lots of great projects. Thank you also to the cities and their representatives on the call today. We've met with many of you previous to this meeting to hear about your projects, along with Vice Chair Gomez. And a special thanks to Chair Marquardt for letting us have tax time so we could get these all done today. So with that, I want to note that all the committee documents for today have been sent to members and are in the committee page on the House website. And I would like to once again thank staff and nonpartisan staff for getting it all together. When this hearing was posted, the public was provided with instructions on how to sign up to testify during the public portion of the bill hearings. No members of the public had signed up to testify today. And the idea today is that we'll be hearing these bills and then laying them over for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. With that, the first item on the agenda is the approval for the minutes from March 2nd. Representative Marquardt, have you had a chance to review the minutes?
Well, let's here, hang on a sec. Get on, there we go. I have, Madam Chair, and I would move approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Chair Marquardt. Does everyone have any questions about those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. This will be a voice vote. So members, please briefly unmute yourselves. All those in favor of approving the March 2nd minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. The motion is approved and the minutes are adopted. Members, also in your electronic packets is the revenue impact summary put together by nonpartisan staff for the bills that are before us today. And your committee packets have also the individual revenue impact statements. You'll see that the revenue impact statements all say 0. There's also a very comprehensive list of the projects with their requests, as well as a document that gives each jurisdiction's net tax capacity in the last 5 years of levy. Finally, there's a memo that briefly goes over the changes the legislature had made to the local option sales tax process over recent years, along with suggestions on how we can approach evaluating these projects. I would like to thank nonpartisan staff for their guidance on finding definitions of regional significance in the current statutes and ways to identify the nexus between those paying the sales tax and being able to access the project. With that, the next item on our agenda is our very first bill, House File 3107. Representative Hertas, would you like to move House File 3107 before the division?
Move, Madam Chair. I'll move House File 3107 for possible inclusion.
Thank you, Representative Hertas. Representative Igo, welcome to the committee and please present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the committee for allowing me some time today. House File 3107 is an extension and a little bit of a cleanup in regards to a local option sales tax for the city of Grand Rapids to help pay for the historic and home of the Grand Rapids Thunderhawks IRA Civic Center. So due to the pandemic and rising costs, we need to adjust that amount a little bit so the city and the community is able to pay for the much needed repairs so we can continue to host some of the greatest hockey tournaments in the Northland. With me today is my city administrator, Tom Pagel, and I'll let him kind of take it off and go into the logistics a little bit.
Thank you, Representative Igo. With us is City Administrator of Grand Rapids, Tom Pagel. Mr. Pagel, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Madam Chair, my name is Tom Pagel. I'm the City Administrator for the City of Grand Rapids. Thank you for allowing us to update you on our project. I want to first thank you for authorizing our local option sales tax at last spring session in 2021. At that time, you had authorized the city to collect up to $5,980,000. Since that time, we have completed final design on the project. And I think, like many communities who are in the design phases and bidding out their projects, they've seen some significant increases in the project costs. In particular, our project has gone from a $10,976,000 project up to a $15,616,000 project. There's three primary categories where that increase has occurred. One is in our roof replacement, where we've gone from about 5 million in an opinion of cost up to 7.2 million. And in our refrigeration replacement, that's the ice making equipment, we've gone from about 1.9 million to 3.2 million, resulting in about a $1.3 million increase. In addition to that, as we got into design, we recognized we had some fairly significant ADA compliance issues out in the public parking lot that services this regional center. And so we have added in the parking lot improvements, which are about 1.5 million, which includes an overlay to the project. So with that, we're looking at an overall project increase of about 4,639,000. So we are asking you to consider amending our current legislation to increase our collection up to 10,600,000.
Thank you, Mr. Pagel. Quick question too. You have not last fall didn't go out yet for the on your ballot yet. You're waiting until this fall.
Correct. Our first general election is coming up this fall. We have not had a general election yet.
Thank you, Mr. Pagel. That was all the questions I have. Members, are there any questions for Mr. Pagel? Representative Hertwas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Pagel, you've talked to me about this project, and since we've talked, I guess I have a little bit of reflection about this. You were here last year and did get approval for the project. What you're describing now is a little more than a 40% increase in the overall cost of the project. And I do understand that the voters have not yet approved this. And, I don't know what their reaction will be to paying a tax, for a longer period of time as proposed the last time around when you came to the legislature for approval. But did you have good numbers or a plan completed or have good estimates? Because I'm in the building construction trades, and 46% seems more than just supply chain issues. It seems to be maybe not having a full comprehensive plan the first time around.
Well, I think
Mr. Pagel?
Chair, Madam Chair, Representative Hertwas, if you pull the parking lot improvements out, certainly it's not that increase is less. It was the hope we wouldn't have to address parking lot improvements when we came to you last year.
Representative Hertwas, follow up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we got a big agenda. I guess in the end, whatever happens here, I guess the voters get to decide.
Thank you, Representative Hertwas. Members, any other questions? Representative Igo, final word.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just thank you to the committee for taking the time today to hear one of our concerns here in northern Minnesota and Grand Rapids. And I appreciate your support so we can send this to the voters in November.
Thank you, Representative Igo. With that, I lay over House File 3107 for possible inclusion in a property tax division report. The next item on our agenda is House File 3443, Representative Hertz, would you like to move House File 3443 before the division?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move House File 3443 for possible inclusion.
Thank you, Representative Hertz. Representative Gruenhagen, welcome to the committee and please present your bill.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee members, for hearing this. This is a request from a small community in my district, Henderson. It's a small community, but they have big ideas. They have a lot of events going. I never saw such a small community have so many events, and including a 300 car plus roll-in that they have every week during the summer hours. They're looking to do some improvements in their committee or in their community and have a small increase on a sales tax in their city. We are also fortunate in previous years to get them some bonding money to address flooding problems at Henderson. Some of you may have seen that on the news. So with that, I have the mayor of Henderson here, and I'll allow him to give his testimony. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Gruenhagen. With us, we have Mayor Keith Swenson of Henderson. Mr. Swenson, will you please state your name for the record and introduce yourself? Sorry, was I on mute? Mayor Swenson, would you like to state your name for the record and introduce yourself?
I think we were muted. I'm very sorry.
Oh, no
Can you hear me
worries.
now?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
I'm Keith Swenson. I am the mayor of Henderson, and I will be making our case. Thank you for hearing us today. Just proceed.
Yes, go ahead and proceed.
As Representative Gruenhagen indicated, we are a small town. We are situated in the floodplain of the Minnesota River. We are about 1,000 people. We are arguably one of the oldest cities in Minnesota. So we have a historic aspect and an environmental aspect being in the river bottoms of the Minnesota River. There are several reasons we want to add this 0.5% 15-year, $240,000 total bond to our public works. We host a lot of events, and we bring on a Tuesday night on our car roll-ins, we will bring in 300-400 classic cars and probably 1,000 onlookers. The infrastructure that allows us to do that has been paid for through property taxes from our homeowners. We feel this would be a way to lighten the load and be able to receive that 0.5% in a way that unburdens the taxpayers of Henderson and takes advantage of our tourism. We also, and the project is to revamp Edison's Park, which is on the bluff at the south end of Henderson, improve the camping facilities and the amenities in that park, and serve as a trailhead for a trail through the river bottoms that is being made possible by the state funding of Highway 93 and County Road 6 as a flood mitigation project. Because we have the advantage of having that right of way accessible to us, we will hopefully have this trail built, and Edison's Park will serve as a trailhead for our access to that trail. Is there anything else?
No, thank you, Mayor Swenson. Members, do we have any questions for Mayor Swenson? I enjoyed chatting with you about your connection to the bike trail too. I'm a bike.
Well,
Come and check out your town.
We're hoping to invite you down as soon as the roll-ins start.
I will have to tell you though, where I grew up in Stillwater is actually the oldest city in Minnesota, but there's probably quite a few claiming that one too.
Well, we claim that it was a filing issue at the St. Paul level. That we and actually Joseph R. Brown, who founded Henderson, was there at the founding of Stillwater too. So
So
we
you
have a
learn
common-
something new every day. I will definitely have to visit your town. Members, do we have any questions for Mayor Swenson or Representative Gruenhagen? Seeing none, Representative Gruenhagen, final word.
Yeah, just a final, this is just authorizing them to author it. It will be voted on, and which I'm completely in favor of. And appreciate your consideration and including it in the omnibus bill that comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will lay over House File 3443 for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. Members, the next item on our agenda is House File 3716. Representative Fisher, would you like to make the motion to move House File 3716 before the division for discussion? Representative Fisher, you're on mute.
Thank you. I thought I unmuted. Yes, I'd like to move House File 3716 in front of the division for possible inclusion.
Thank you. Members, we'll just have you move the bills in front of committee for consideration, and then I'll move them for possible inclusion at the end. So moving on with that, sorry about that, Representative Murphy, welcome to the committee, and will you please present your bill?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. This bill has been years in the making, years and years and years and years. When I was growing into adulthood, Willard Munger was my state representative. And I just admired him so much. And when I became a representative, I had much of what had previously been his district. And so I was honored to serve with him. And in the last century, I had the opportunity when he was environmental finance chair to add the names of Hermantown and Proctor as spur trails to the state trail of Munger State Trail. And some people say I am hopeless, but most people say I have hopeful optimism for the future. And as I said, in the last century, we got Proctor and Hermantown as official in the statutes that they were authorized to have spur trails to the Munger Trail. And it is time. Last fall, we had the groundbreaking or the ribbon cutting on what part of a Hermantown trail that would be this regional spur. And now this bill is before us to give Proctor the authorization to have additional tax for this recreational purpose. And so hope and optimism go together. And Jake Benson, who is another optimist and city councilor for a long time and former mayor of Proctor, is here to explain why the time has come.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. And with that, our next testifier is Councilmember Jake Benson. Mr. Benson, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. I'm Jake Benson, a Proctor City Councilor, a business owner, and an officer of the Proctor Chamber of Commerce. I thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity to be here. Our roles as city officials is to work for and promote the wishes of our citizens. And that's why I certainly appreciate my time today. Proctor is about 145 miles north of St. Paul on I-35. We're known as the largest inland iron ore sorting facilities in the world. You might know us from Proctor Hermantown Mirage Hockey. But more importantly, getting back to the Willard Munger Trail Spur, this link to this regional trail has been a dream going back 3 decades that could connect that trail to our LCCMR regional recreation area. Our residents have long been aware of our unique situation. Our first sales tax received a 77% voter approval. A second request was supported in the high 60% range. We're home to the South St. Louis County Fairgrounds. We're the entrance on I-35 to the Spirit Mountain Recreation Area, which is big for the Munger Trail Spur. Our citizens know the value of our sales tax because we have had to explain it through 2 previous referendums, along with voluminous amounts of newspaper articles and city communications. A 2019 study showed that 42% of all Proctor land is owned by governments outside of Proctor. They don't pay property taxes, or do they pay any payments in lieu of taxes? The largest property owner, the railroad, owns about 13% of all the lands. We're bordered on 3 sides by 2 cities that have a sales tax. Duluth sales tax is 8.88%. Our neighbor Hermantown, who we share a number of programs with, is also looking for a 0.5% increase, in part to complete their citywide trail system that will reach Proctor's borders and link us to that Willard Munger Trail, which stretches from Duluth to Hinckley and provides access to trail systems that extend across Minnesota. If passed, our 0.5% will bring Proctor's sales tax equal to Duluth and likely Hermantown's. We would not be here if not for our citizens and their support asking for this. The business community supports it. Our visitors ask for it. Our Proctor Hermantown community education will support this as a wellness effort. We ask you to give our citizens the opportunity to vote on their initiative. And with me today is our city administrator, Jess Rich.
Thank you, Councilmember Benson. With that, our next testifier is City Administrator Jess Rich. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jess Rich, and I am the Proctor City Administrator. I'm relatively new to the city of Proctor, and if I can just piggyback off of what Councilor Benson said about community buy-in, as I acclimated myself to my job, I looked at a lot of planning documents that were in the files. And I have to say that almost every single one, whether it was transportation or wellness or economic development, pointed to the Munger Trail Spur, the Proctor Hermantown Munger Trail Spur. So I can testify that it is definitely a community priority as someone relatively new to the community. Just to give you some numbers on it, the total trail spur is 16.5 miles. Proctor's share is 6 miles, but I'll have to say that it is the most difficult because Proctor sits up on the ridge line of Duluth. And so we have some very difficult terrain to overcome in order to make that connection. The total project cost of the total trail is now estimated at 15 million. Proctor's share, and this number is inflated due to some of the construction costs we talked about earlier in this session. We're estimating that maybe it'll be around 8 million by the time we get to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. With that, members, do we have any questions? Sorry, with that, members, do we have any questions? I think I have one quick one. I know we discussed when you were talking about the project how difficult the 6 miles is within the city of Proctor. Besides the ridge line, I think you're having to tackle getting around I-35W. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have I-35, we have major power lines, we have the elevation. Our preferred trail route, as a is the best elevation. And you as a biker would know, we talked about, we want to give a nice elevation and a good slope so that it's accessible to everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. And Representative Murphy, I believe you were telling me that this is kind of the missing link for the trail. Do you want to give some final words since I'm not seeing any questions?
Well, I think that we would all enjoy a downward slope into Duluth and to hook up with the Munger Trail. And Hermantown and Proctor are both a little north. And so we'll be going south. And I urge the members to carefully consider this and let me keep my hope and optimism for the trail and to enrich people's experience that made one of the first trails the longest trail in Minnesota for a while. And all Minnesota should be connected by trails. And this is our portion of it. And so please, I appreciate your consideration and look forward to further hearings.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. With that, I lay over House File 3716 for possible inclusion in a property tax division report. The next item on our agenda is House File 2923. Representative Pelowski, would you like to move your bill before our division? Representative Pelowski, you're on mute.
And no, I'm not.
Don't worry, I've done it like twice today already.
So move, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, the bill is before the committee. Go ahead, Representative Pelowski, and present your bill.
House File 2923 comes to us actually from the mini session that was held in Winona in southeastern Minnesota in October of 2019. That was the first legislative look at the needs that the Winona County was facing building a new jail. And I'm going to stop there because we have the county attorney, Winona County Attorney Carlson. She's been the point person on this project. A lot of it is because we no longer have a Winona County administrator at this point. So she's sort of doubling as Winona County attorney and county administrator. So Madam Chair, if you would go to Winona County Attorney Carlson.
Thank you, Representative Pelowski. Winona County Attorney Karen Sonneman, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Yocum. My name is Karen Sonneman, and good afternoon also Vice Chair Gomez, Republican lead Herthaus, and members of the committee. I have served as Winona County Attorney since 2011, and I've also chaired, or I'm also the chair of the Winona County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And I'm here to ask for your support for House File 2923, which would authorize Winona County to hold a referendum to impose by ordinance a sales and use tax of 1/4% to finance up to $28 million to pay for the construction of a replacement jail. And we have started that project. I can see it from my window here at the courthouse. And that would also help cover associated bond costs for the bonds that Winona County has issued at a time when bond rates are at their lowest in a generation. Let me give you a little brief history of our project. In September of 2018, the Minnesota Department of Corrections ordered that the Winona County Jail be sunsetted, that is, close on September 30th, 2021. Previous inspections by the Department of Corrections had identified a long list of structural and operating deficiencies in our jail, which could not be easily corrected. It was clear that simply remodeling the over 40-year facility, a 40-year-old facility, which was built to 1910 standards, would not meet the needs of the county nor regulations of the Department of Corrections. Now, prior to that sunset directive, the county had already taken steps to evaluate its options. In December of 2017, the county board created the Jail Advisory Committee. I served on that committee. And after about a year of study, we issued our report, and the county board approved the construction of a jail, which consists of the following features. The secure part of the facility, the inmate housing area, will consist of 51 cell units with an 80-bed capacity. This includes 8 separate units designed with flexibility in mind. And units are not specifically designated male and female. 5 of those 8 units have sub-day rooms, which allows for 13 different classifications of inmates. Thus, the flexibility to meet the needs at the time of booking and also any later reclassifications of inmates. The facility will also have 6 holding cells in the intake area that can be used to house juveniles if necessary for a very short time, enough to get them into court without having to transport a juvenile literally all across the state sometimes, which we do now. 4 of the 8 units are considered special management or mental health units. These are designed with correctional grade behavioral health furniture and fixtures and smaller bed counts. There is also a work release or what's called a Huber unit. The type of jail security layout will be a pod system versus our old jail's linear cell block structure. The type of spaces in this building, besides inmate housing, will include sheriff's department and jail administration offices, visitation rooms, secure court transfer, virtual meeting spaces for court counseling and visitation, jail intake worker office, our jail social worker office, our treatment court coordinator office. There'll be a medical unit, a kitchen, a laundry, a gymnasium, classrooms, counseling rooms, and multi-purpose rooms. And in our intake area, it will be a larger and safer and more efficient booking area. And it will also include a work release lobby with locker rooms. This project, members of the committee, also includes remodeling and upgrading our 911 dispatch facilities. There will be program space for programs such as GED, job training, other education, mental health counseling, chemical dependency counseling, and things like parent and family education. Winona County has made a commitment to serving our community by investing in various programming for inmates while understanding that jail isn't their last stop for educating those individuals, nor is it the last stop for treating the root cause of their behavior, but we can get a good start with this new facility. The goal is to include, but go beyond that secure incarceration area to include program space, offices for our current jail intake and reentry programs that evaluate individuals at the time of booking and begin their reentry planning at that time through our reentry and assistance program we call RAP+. And that includes screens for mental health and other community connection referrals through our jail social worker. Our design is a model in repurposing our jail to meet 21st century community needs and providing efficient and effective spaces for our existing programs to serve the needs of individuals. Now, besides the criminal justice aspect, the jail construction project is also a prime example of an economic development engine, generating jobs and income literally across the state. At peak, there will be 80 construction workers on site. And looking at the project directory, which I had your staff provide for you from our Market and Johnson, our construction company, you can see that there are 12 pages of all different subcontractors on the project, from elevators through the Otis Elevator Company in Roseville, Minnesota. Also BKBH Engineers and EDI DOKJS in Minneapolis. Chair Yoakum, in your area, there's Building Supply out of Edina, and our architects are Klein and McCarthy from St. Louis Park. We also have structural steel installation through Danny Construction Company and Souls Steel Erectors in Shakopee. And many, many more, as you can see from our project directory there. So again, Winona County asks for your support and passage of House File 2923. I thank Representative Pelowski for sponsoring this legislation. I thank all of you for your time today. If you have any questions, I certainly can answer some today or contact me at any time for further information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sonneman. And then I did enjoy our time in hearing more about your project. If I can remember right, you said that although it was built in 1970, maybe you can tell me what specifications it was built to.
It was built to 1910, the year 1910 specifications, because at the moment that it was going to be built, the DOC was going to be changing their regulations. And so our county board at that time felt in order to save costs or whatever their motivation was, they would quickly build it to the 1910 specifications, which was the prior from the late 1970s changes. So we have been working with a 1910 jail, and much to the credit of our sheriff and his staff, we've been able to keep people safe in that jail, but it wore itself out. And so now we are looking forward to a new jail, and hopefully with this local sales option sales tax, if you do move it forward, we will have opportunities to help pay for it through our sales, generating through our sales tax in the county. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sonneman. And thank you also for all the work you're doing on the programming to help with education and mental health supports and drug treatment so that we can help with recidivism too. Really greatly appreciated. Members, are there any other questions for Ms. Sonneman? With that, Representative Pelowski, final word.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I know you've got a full agenda.
Thank you, Representative Pelowski. With that, I lay over House File 2923 for possible inclusion in a property tax division report. The next item we have on the agenda is House File 3748. Representative Fisher, would you like to move House File 3748 before the division?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to move House File 3748 before the division.
Thank you, Representative Fisher. Representative Lippert, welcome to the committee and please present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. This bill would allow for a local option sales tax question to go on the ballot in Rice County. The funds raised would help build a safety center replacing the current Rice County Jail, one of the oldest county jail facilities in the state. The Department of Corrections has downgraded the jail due to less than the required amount of recreation and programming space. The new facility will provide more space for mental health and substance abuse treatment support. A computer lab, gym, and flexible classroom space as well will allow for more programming options for those held at the jail. Rice County Commissioner Steve Underdahl and Rice County Administrator Sarah Folstead are here to say more about the project.
Thank you, Representative Lippert. With that, we have Rice County Commissioner Steve Underdahl here. Mr. Underdahl, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Steve Underdahl, I'm Rice County Commissioner. Thank you for hearing our request, and I would refer to our County Administrator, Sarah Folstead.
Thank you, Mr. Underdahl. Ms. Folstead, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Sarah Folstead, and I'm the County Administrator for Rice County. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share with you our proposal for the local option sales tax. So in summer of 2019, for a little history, the State Department of Corrections did notify the county that we were going to have our classification downgraded to a 90-day hold facility, again, citing that lack of programming and recreational space, as well as some safety concerns. Similar to Winona County, we have a 1972 constructed jail. So again, prior to those changes and requirements, it's the linear block style, which really limits our ability to make any necessary improvements to meet the current standards of the DOC or really the needs of the inmates that we're currently seeing. So in July of 2019, our county board approved an RFP for a jail study to review the needed improvements that would meet the requirements. And since that time, we've been granted 2 extensions by the state as we progress through our study. We evaluated 4 different options to do nothing and just deferred maintenance and begin boarding our inmates elsewhere. We looked at, can we renovate our current downtown site? We also have a jail annex, so our inmates are currently split between 2 locations based on their classification because we cannot accommodate them all in one location. We're building on our jail annex location or a green site. We held a series of public open houses, both in person and virtually, given that we were in a pandemic, for feedback on the options. And in May of 2021, the county board voted to proceed with the development of a 76-bed facility, a combined public safety center with the jail and our law enforcement on a green site. And for reference, our current 2 locations house 72 inmates. So it's an increase of 4 beds in the new facility. So in September, we were able to purchase the land for the new site. And now the board's been looking at ways that we can finance the cost of this facility. It's estimated that the facility will be just under 50 million. So we're seeking a local option sales tax of 3/8, the 0.375%, to help fund the debt service on that facility. Our new facility, we're really putting an emphasis on, again, that programming space for treatment, for drug court, for mental health. Our Board of Commissioners has committed to staffing a new unit, which is a behavioral health unit. So we are embedding social workers and people who work with mental health to do case management. So when someone enters the jail, we can do more comprehensive review of their needs and then try to help follow them, connect them with services while they're in jail, but also once they're released, try to help get them connected, whether they go to a community in Rice County or in a community out of the county, that they're connecting with services, again, to hope that they're able to leave a little better than they enter our doors. Also, again, all the educational space, more counseling and remote access to virtual hearings and things of that nature. Again, I think, thank you for your consideration, and this new facility will definitely help us meet the needs of our inmates that we're seeing coming in the door now.
Thank you, Ms. Volstead, and thank you for the focus on programming and screening when folks come in so we can make sure they're successful when they leave. Members, do we have any questions for Representative Lippert or the testifiers? With that, I want to also mention, thank you, a while back, Representative Becker Finn joined us. So sorry about that. I meant to mention that before we even started on this bill. With that, seeing no questions, Representative Lippert, do you have some final words?
I simply thank the committee and you, Chair Joachim, for the time and consideration today.
Thank you, Representative Lippert. With that, I lay over House File 3748 for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. The next item on our agenda is House File 3606. Representative Fisher, would you like to move House File 3606 before the division?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to move House File 3606 before the division.
Thank you, Representative Fisher. Representative Carlson, welcome to the committee, and please present your bill.
Thank you, Chair Joachim and members. House File 3606 proposes an additional City of Bloomington sales tax of 0.5% on retail sales within the city. The revenue collected by the sales tax would be used to provide funding to improve aging city facilities. Many of Bloomington's most used assets need significant investment or replacement. 4 projects have been identified that could be funded through a Bloomington sales tax. So with me today are Bloomington Mayor Tim Bussi and City Manager Jamie Verbrugge to talk about the 4 projects and their significance to the City of Bloomington and the entire metro area.
Thank you, Representative Carlson. Mayor Tim Bussi, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you so very much for taking the time to hear us today. My name is Tim Bussi, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as the mayor of the City of Bloomington. As Representative Carlson said, we are bringing forward a request for a Bloomington sales tax of 0.5% to be used to fund 4 regionally significant projects within the City of Bloomington. I know you have the information in front of you, but I'd like to take just a moment to go through the 4 projects. They include the significant renovation of the Bloomington Ice Guard, which includes a new roof for the entire facility and a complete replacement of the R22 refrigeration system. And I know that you've heard from other communities facing the same challenges of R22 not being available any longer as a refrigeration option for ice rinks. The second project is a new community health and wellness center. It would replace 2 existing facilities, our public health building and our Creekside Community Center. Bloomington is unique in the fact that we do have a public health department, and we serve both the cities of Edina and Richfield as well, for a total population of about 180,000 people served by our public health department. The third project is an expansion of the Bloomington Center for the Arts, which includes a new concert performance space. We currently have a wonderful theater but it is simply not well suited for our very popular orchestral and choral music programs. And the final project is a new clubhouse at Dwan Golf Course, as well as significant course renovations. The clubhouse is small and it's frankly past its useful life, and the course is in need of renovations. There are just 3 points that I'd like you to know about these projects that we're bringing forward today. First, all very clearly fit the definition of being regionally significant. Bloomington Ice Garden rents 9,000 ice hours and hosts more than 24 tournaments and figure skating events with skaters from across Minnesota and the United States. And I can't prove it, but I firmly believe that every skater who has ever laced up skates and played hockey in Minnesota has played at Bloomington Ice Garden. I really do believe that. Our Bloomington Public Health Department, as I said, serves both Edina and Richfield, serving a population of 180,000. And during the pandemic, our public health department served thousands of individuals from outside of their service area with both testing and vaccinations. The arts groups that I talked about, they're housed in our Center for the Arts, and they provide programming for audiences or members that perform, and they come from 11 different counties in Minnesota in 2021. We also have a database within our ticket office that shows tickets are bought from zip codes that are literally across the country. Across the country, ticket buyers come to Bloomington Center for the Arts for performances. And finally, Dwan Golf Course provides golf amenities and services to more than 50,000 golfers every year. Last year in 2021, nearly 60% of patrons were from cities outside the city of Bloomington. The second thing that I want you to know is that the needs that we're addressing come from two main factors, either outdated and in some cases functionally obsolete facilities, or programming and use that is so successful that these facilities are literally bursting at the seams. And finally, Bloomington has made significant strides in recent years in the creation of new affordable housing and the preservation of our naturally occurring affordable housing. And frankly, we're very proud of that. We're looking for an alternative funding opportunity for these facilities so that we don't have to rely on property tax dollars, which would impact the significant gains that we've made in the areas of affordable housing. We learned recently, Madam Chair, that Bloomington has reached 78% of our 2030 affordable housing goal as set by the Metropolitan Council. We're very confident that we'll reach 100% by 2030. And as I said, that is something we're very proud of and we are looking to maintain within the city of Bloomington. With that, thank you so very much, Madam Chair. I hope you'll consider our request moving forward. Thank you very much to Representative Carlson for bringing this legislation forward. And if it pleases the chair, I'd like to turn this over to Jamie Verbrugge, our city manager here in the city of Bloomington.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bussey. Sorry about butchering your name to start with. Our next testifier, City Manager Jamie Verbrugge. Verbrugge, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity. My name is Jamie Verbrugge. I'm the city manager in Bloomington. The mayor did a pretty comprehensive job covering the different projects. Just a couple of additional points that I want to make. From our perspective, we have been trying to balance where we are making the investments with precious property taxpayer dollars for facilities in the community that are in need of significant renovation or replacement. I think many of you will recognize that Bloomington is a community that is of a certain age where many of our facilities are approaching that point in time where they have outlived their usefulness. And it's not just the ones that are in front of you, Madam Chair and members. It includes a number of the facilities that are necessary for us to deliver our essential and core services of government. We have five fire stations that are in need of replacement and or significant renovation, and they're scheduled in the next 8 years. The cost for those is nearly $100 million. We have a public works garage that we're also replacing because the current fleet maintenance garage is undersized because when it was originally constructed, the equipment that was being worked on was much smaller than it is today. And that's a similar situation with our fire departments. The apparatus and the equipment we're using is outgrowing the space that's allotted for them. And so we're
we're focused on making sure that those essential core services are being funded with our property tax dollars. And we're trying to make sure that balancing all of these capital investment needs, we're doing so with sensitivity for our property tax payers. One thing that I want to focus on is that, you know, Bloomington, as we think about ability to pay, we have a household income, average household income, that is about 6.5% less than the average household income than the Twin Cities as a whole. So, you know, it's important for us to be really judicious and responsible about what costs we're assigning to our property taxes, and at the same time trying to identify alternative revenue sources for other facilities that are still really important, one, to the quality of life of our community, but two, important to the ongoing service delivery that we provide. So I think I'll stop there, Madam Chair and members, and if you have any questions for the mayor and me, we're happy to answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Verbrugge. Members, any questions for Representative Carlson or his testifiers? Seeing none. Representative Carlson, final word.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. With that, members, I will lay over House File 3606 for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. The next item on our agenda, members, is House File 2702. Chair Marquardt, would you like to move House File 2702 before the division? Is the one hard part about not being around the table to see if people are there. I will move House File 2702 before the division. With that, Representative Edelson, welcome to the committee, and please present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. House Bill 2702 is an increase from the 2021 approved 21.6 million to 53.3 million in the revenue that the city of Edina can collect with a 0.5% local option sales tax. These funds would be used to expand the Braemar Ice Arena. Just so members know, the Braemar Ice Arena is one of the busiest ice arenas in the state of Minnesota. We have approximately 500,000 annual visits that are recorded by residents from 158 different Minnesota communities in 12 states. Madam Chair, I will go directly to my testifiers to discuss our modified request. Today I have with me our mayor, Edina's mayor, Jim Hovland, who would go first, and then Scott Neal, our city manager, is here as well.
Thank you, Representative Edelson. Welcome to the committee, Mayor Hovland. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jim Hovland. I'm the mayor of the city of Edina. With me today is Scott Neal, our city manager, and he'll follow me in the testimony, just as you heard with the city of Bloomington. It's nice to see, first of all, so many familiar faces, even virtually. To see you all, it's a real distinct pleasure. Thank you for being with us today. I also want to tell all of you that in Edina, we want to express our gratitude to each and every one of you and the rest of the legislature for your actions last year that allowed us to go to our residents on a capital improvement master plan project at a regionally significant facility, Fred Richards Park, for 8.1 million, and for capital rehabilitation of the Braemar Ice Arena, another regionally significant facility, at 13.5 million. We'll be going to the voters in this fall of 2022 on those two proposed projects. As many of you know, in the state of hockey, and we've heard discussions about hockey from both Bloomington and Grand Rapids, Braemar has served a key role serving not only our city and our kids, but students and families from across the region and across the state and even internationally. And as Representative Edelson noted, we had approximately 500,000 visits from residents of 158 Minnesota communities in 2021, visitors from 12 different states and one other country. In addition to the capital rehabilitation needs that need to be accomplished at Braemar Arena, we have found, particularly in the past year, an ever-increasing demand for ice time so more kids can participate not only in hockey, but other sports like figure skating. A committee of our residents had been studying ice arena needs, but this work was not completed and no recommendation was therefore made by the end of the last legislative session. And that is the reason we're back with you today. We are asking for your assistance and the ability to go back to our residents with a capital improvement expansion plan project request seeking an additional $31.7 million in local option sales tax funding authorization, which will bring our total authorization sought to approximately $53.3 million. The addition of this capital improvement expansion project to our existing authorization is well within our original capacity, causes no need to request an increase in the rate or the duration of the collection of the tax if approved. Suburban communities have important regionally significant projects, as you just heard from the city of Bloomington, like so many other communities in our state. This was recognized by the legislature in particular with respect to Edina and giving us the ability to go to our voters on two potential needs that were regionally significant in nature in 2020 and 2021. As a reminder, Edina doesn't get local government aid, and it is one of the top fiscal disparities net contributors in the state. It is a city proud to serve its own people and help other cities as well in the Minnesota tradition. But sometimes even a prosperous town needs to seek legislative assistance on some matters, particularly those of regional significance, such as the case in the 21-22 legislative session, just as it was in the 2020-2021 session. We are therefore back before you asking for your support and your permission to add Braemar Arena Capital Improvement Project into the list of projects we can take to the voters this fall for potential approval. As previously mentioned, adding this capital expansion project will not require additional capacity and require no increase in the projected sales tax rate or the duration of that tax. If approved, then our voters can address the two projects previously approved, and this capital expansion project will do it all this fall. Thank you very much for your consideration. Now I'll turn it over to Scott Neal, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Hovland. City Manager Scott Neal, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Scott Neal. I'm the city manager in Edina. I think the only thing I will add to what the mayor described is really something that you also just heard from the Bloomington city manager, and that is that we manage our property tax levy very carefully. We have a number of other facilities that really don't fit the definition of a regionally significant facility that we are using property tax dollars to improve both in the current and long term. One of those is a new fire station in the Southdale part of our community, but another is a pretty well-funded by property taxes street improvement program that we just approved last year. So we are watching how we spend our property taxes. We want to spend them carefully. When we have an opportunity to perhaps avail ourselves of a different kind of revenue source, we want to do that to broaden the amount of revenue opportunities we have for regional facilities like Braemar Ice Arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. With that, we'll go to member questions. Representative Hertaus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is the second proposal we've heard today that is coming back from last year, expanding the scope of what they had asked for last year. I have two questions, one for the city manager and one for the mayor. So I'll start with the city manager. Mr. Neal, what is the total tax capacity within the city of Edina?
Mr. Neal.
Member Hertaus, members of the committee, the numbers that we submitted in 2021, the net tax capacity of the city was $141,273,381.
Representative Hertaus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess I was thinking about the additional spending you want to do, which was sounding like $30 million. How would that impact that in terms of the average taxpayer on the term of years that you're talking about?
Mr. Neal.
Member Hertaus, members of the commission, do I understand the question? If we were to fund this project with general obligation bonds, is that the question?
Well, you've got different ways. Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess you've got a couple of different ways at your option. One would be with general obligation bonds and the debt service on it, or would be to levy the funds, which generally would be, as we just discussed, debt service on it. But what would that mean to the average taxpayer, average rooftop, average home?
We,
Mr. Neal?
Member Hartas, Madam Chair, we do have that data. We're having it being produced right now by our financial advisors. I don't have it available today, but we are going to be sharing that information with the state and with our council members. So yes, we are working on the calculation.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Representative Hertaus?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that explanation, Manager Neal. Mayor Hovland, you kind of characterize this as we're not raising the rate, we're not extending the term of years, and yet we're going to double the size of the project. Could you elaborate on that, please?
I think that Manager Neal. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Hertaus. Good to see you. Good question. I'm going to turn it back over to Manager Neal to answer that question.
Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Your Honor. Madam Chair, the project that was approved, or the authorization that was approved last year by the legislature, authorizes the city to spend approximately $13.5 million at the ice arena, and that is really to improve all of the functioning guts of the thing, right? All the dasher boards and floor replacements and ice and refrigeration and heaters and boilers and water systems and electrical systems, all of the kind of critical infrastructure within the arena. From a facility standpoint, we're gonna do all that stuff. I think you're gonna come in and you're gonna not be able to see $13 million worth of improvements, because it's all kind of behind the scenes.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Representative Hertaus?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Neal. I'm not sure that you answered my question. I guess in the mayor's presentation, it was characterized that you would be doubling the expenditure, not raising the rate. And I'm asking how you do that with the same number of years or term as described. Did I misunderstand how the mayor presented that?
Mr. Neal?
Madam Chair, Member Hertaus, no, you did not. I think another dimension of this that's not really apparent is that when we brought, if you look at what the University of Minnesota Extension Service projected for us, they projected that we would generate $4 million a year, and over 19 years, that's $76 million. When we brought our initial proposal to the legislature, we had a large component of it that was transportation funding, and it was suggested to us by both sides of the aisle that not to include transportation projects in our bill, so those were removed. Essentially, what we're asking for now is to take that revenue that was going to be spent on those projects and allowing us to use it for an arena expansion project instead. And that arena is already kind of fits the example of a regionally significant facility. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Representative Hertaus?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that explanation, Mr. Neal. I don't think anybody disputes the significance and the regionality of the Braemar sheet of ice. That certainly has done well to bring a lot of youth into the realm of hockey. But it's sounding a little bit like you got the authorization last year, and sometimes it feels like a little bit of a beat and switch, but it would appear that maybe knowing that the roads maybe weren't the best use of regionality and the levy that or the authorization that was granted last year, it sounds like the proposal wasn't modified before presenting it to us, and so now you're supplanting a different project for what you had previously gotten approved. Is that correct?
Mr. Neal?
Madam Chair, Member Hertaus, I would say we are bringing to you a project that we wish we could have brought to you before, but didn't because it wasn't fully baked and ready for your consideration. So from a timing standpoint, it's ready now.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
would
Neal.
just add that,
Mayor Hovland?
yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Hertaus. as I mentioned in my testimony, we had a committee of residents that worked diligently on trying to figure out what our future needs are going to be at the Braemar Ice Arena. And unfortunately, that information wasn't ready for sharing with either the legislature or even our own residents until after we finished the last legislative session. So when we saw the extent of the needs that were projected under the plans, which was that we needed to add 2 new ice sheets along with deconstructing one, creating a covered walkway to our existing west rink, add a parking deck, expand the lobby, the drive lane, the safety drop-off area, and the outdoor programming space. We thought we should come back and visit with you to see if we could add this expansion project to the existing rehabilitation project at Braemar, and that is kind of the essence of our request. Also, with respect to that study that the University of Minnesota Extension Service did, I think they did show some significant capacity there from a sales tax standpoint, as Manager Neal was mentioning. And we certainly didn't allocate all of that last year. We only got about partway there to the full capacity. So we've got more than enough room at 54 million to keep it at the existing percentage and stay within the existing time frame to capture those potential revenues to do all of these regionally significant projects.
Thank you, Mayor Hovland. Representative Hertaz, any follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Neal and Mayor Hovland for clarification of that. I think there's probably a lot of communities which they had the ability to raise $54 million from a half-cent sales tax. You're in an enviable position.
Thank you, Representative Hertaz. Members, any other questions? With that, Representative Edelson, final comments.
Nothing. Thank you, Madam Chair, to members for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Representative Edelson. With that, I lay over House File 2702 for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division Report. With that, members, our next bill on the agenda is House File 3760. Representative Marquardt, would you like to move House File 3760 before the division?
Madam Chair, I will make that motion.
Thank you, Representative Marquardt. With that, Representative Vang, I see that you also have an amendment. Chair Marquardt, would you like to move the A1 amendment?
I'll move the A1 amendment.
Thank you. With that, the A1 amendments before it. Representative Vang, welcome to the committee. Do you just want to briefly describe your amendment first?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A1 amendment is, after much discussion with my city, essentially takes out the outdoor adventure park facility, lowering the sales tax option from 135 million to 55 million for just the community center.
Thank you, Representative Vang. With that, members, does anybody have any questions on the amendment before we adopt it? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote, so please unmute yourself. All those in favor of adopting the A1 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Representative Vang, please present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. House File 3760 allows for a half-cent sales tax to assist with the financing of expanding and renovating our community center, Brooklyn Center, that serves the people of Brooklyn Center, the greater North Metro region, and indeed the entire state. If you would allow us to do this item to our voters, the city will be able to share the financing with citizens who cannot reside in the city, but are benefiting from this facility. It will also reduce the overall tax burden for Brooklyn Center residents who, as you hear, are already heavily burdened relative to mobility. The city of Brooklyn Center carries the overburden of regional facilities as a host community and is a city that is disadvantaged relative to many others its size. Brooklyn Center is one of 44 suburbs in Henderson County and has the lowest average income. The ability to share the cost of these regional facilities with non-residents who use our community would ensure residents are not having to pay the entire cost for the region and would keep the pressure off increased property taxes. You have been provided additional materials in your packets. Madam Chair, with that, I would like to introduce the testifiers who will elaborate further on this bill.
Thank you, Representative Vang. With that, we have here to testify Makita Butler, Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hello, Marquita Butler. First off, I want to thank you for taking time to hear our request and consider funding for this regionally significant cultural community center. Brooklyn Center is a community with a great deal of need. The community has experienced significant day investment over the last several decades, which has eroded its tax base and made it impossible to fund investments to meet the needs of our changing community. As you consider the city's request for local option sales tax authority, please keep in mind a few important facts. Brooklyn Center is the most diverse community in the region. 57% of our residents are people of color and a quarter are foreign born. Brooklyn Center has the lowest median income in the region and the highest property tax in Hennepin County. Brooklyn Center residents pay 73% more for the exact same city services as other residents in neighboring communities. This is an equity issue as much as it is an economic one. Yet despite this, Brooklyn Center is rich with cultural diversity, resilience, and entrepreneurial people. As we have talked with community about what they want across the board, regardless of income, ethnicity, or background, people talk about wanting to feel pride in their community and to celebrate our unique diversity. To have places to gather, come together as community, places to take friends and family when they visit. We believe that a world-class amenities aren't just for wealthy communities. In fact, we believe that this project will bring not only economic benefit, but also pride to our community. Because Brooklyn Center deserves quality assets as much as anyone else, an economically resilient Brooklyn Center benefits the entire region. With that, I will turn it over to Meg Beekman, our development director, to talk about the project and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Butler. With that, Meg Beekman, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Meg Beekman, Community Development Director, City of Brooklyn Center. Thank you, Councilmember Butler. And thank you, Representative Vang, for introducing this bill, and Madam Chair and committee members for the opportunity for the City of Brooklyn Center to speak with you today. We're really excited to be talking about this project. The current Brooklyn Center Community Center serves 115,000 people annually. And of that, 65% already today are regional visitors versus local. It's a central location. It's got excellent access to major freeways, and it makes it a really easy place to visit. The city has an existing Olympic-sized pool. It's one of only 3 in the state. However, the facility constraints limit that pool's use for regional and competitive activities today. And while these assets make the community center an excellent regional host site for traveling sporting events, conferences, and meetings, the facility was built in the 1950s. It's undersized and it does not meet the needs of the community or the region. The city's done extensive engagement and outreach over the last several years. And through that engagement, the need for recreation services and programming that really has been elevated as a top priority in our community. We know that there exists a large gap between the needs of the region in terms of recreation services and the available facilities and programming that are located in Brooklyn Center. The City of Brooklyn Center and the region have a clear need for culturally relevant recreation and wellness facilities and programming. As previously mentioned, Brooklyn Center has a highly diverse population, and this is also true of communities that surround Brooklyn Center. The Brooklyn Center Community Center serves residents from a wide array of cultures and ethnicities, and this rich diversity is one of our region's and Brooklyn Center's strengths. And yet there's really no central place where community can gather, come together in a place that's culturally inclusive and welcoming to all. And it was really through conversations with our many community partners that the concept for an expanded community center that would focus on cultural wellness was born. The city engaged a consultant to complete a feasibility and market study, to engage with community and to identify a fit plan and program for an expanded facility that meets the needs of a changing demographic while being able to serve the region with tournament and gathering space. The proposal before you was developed through an iterative process with community, and it focuses on right sizing within the physical constraints of the site as well as the financial realities of our community. The future vision of the Brooklyn Center Community Center includes a plan to renovate and expand the existing facility to achieve 110,000 square foot, fully modern space that will serve as an inclusive hub of community health, wellness, and recreation for Brooklyn Center and the surrounding region. And this is not a project that the city could or should take on its own. As the highest tax community in Hennepin County and residents with the lowest median income, the region stands to benefit from assisting with providing access to health and wellness opportunities for those most in need. A healthier, more prosperous Brooklyn Center benefits the entire region.
This project is years in the making and truly encompasses the spirit of Brooklyn Center and the changing needs of our region. Thank you for the opportunity to present this initiative to you. In addition to Councilwoman Butler, I'm also joined by City Manager Dr. Reggie Edwards. And at this time, we'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Did Mr. Edwards want to speak or just there for questions?
Just for questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. I want to make note too that a while back, Representative Hassan has joined us. She was doing double duty. She had another committee today. So I want to thank people again for being willing to come during the 1 o'clock tax time and to have the space to have these discussions. With that, members, do I have any questions from committee members on this project? Seeing none, Representative Vang, final comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to thank you and the committee for your consideration on this bill, and I look forward for your support.
Thank you, Representative Vang. With that, I lay over House File 3760 as amended for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. The next item on our agenda is House File 3822. Chair Marquardt, would you like to move House File 3822 before the committee?
Madam Chair, I will make that motion.
Thank you, Chair Marquardt. With the bill before the committee, Representative Liebling, welcome. Please proceed, present your bill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It's been a long time since I've been in front of the property tax or the tax committee for that matter. Pleased to be here today and thank you for hearing this bill, House File 3822. So I'm here to present Rochester's efforts to renew our existing local sales tax. This sales tax is a tool that has helped our community in quite a few ways since it was first approved by the legislature in 1983. I want to remind you that Rochester is a regional center for Southeast Minnesota and also a city of the first class. It's an economic engine for the state and also, as you know, a center of hope and healing for the entire world. Mayor Norton is here and she will provide more detail about the proposal today. But I do want to just let you know how important this is to my community and ask you to give it your full consideration. And with that, thank you again. And I would like to turn it over to former state representative and current mayor, Kim Norton.
Thank you, Representative Liebling. Nice to see you, Mayor Norton, in this capacity. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My name for the record is Kim Norton. I'm mayor of the city of Rochester. It is really wonderful to see so many familiar faces and hear familiar voices throughout this hearing, and lots of new faces too, which has been fun. I'm here to ask for your support, as has been mentioned by Representative Liebling, for our renewal of the existing 0.5% city sales tax that has been granted Rochester back in the early 1980s. A little history: Rochester is the third largest city in the state, and as Rep. Liebling mentioned, it is a city of the first class. We were really pleased this past census cycle to see that our population had grown to 124,599 residents. We encompass 55 square miles, which is about the same as Minneapolis, believe it or not. Well, they're a little more dense than we are. Rochester supports an international airport, a library, a wastewater treatment plant, a transit bus system, also around towns and roads and all that make up a regular city. We are doing a lot of things that the average city in Minnesota isn't doing, and without many of the funding sources available to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth. And I think sometimes we need to remind people of that. We are home to the state's largest employer, and we are a regional hub. We, for our workforce and commerce, we host about 30,000 commuters a day in Rochester. This regional traffic absolutely has an impact on our local roads for economic activity. They rely on them. And you'll notice that we have 4 projects that we're asking for renewal today. These requests are really the needs of Rochester as a regional hub in greater Minnesota. This role in the region warrants this, our local sales tax request.
And we are submitting the 4 projects that you've received in your packets, which is a housing vitality fund, street construction, flood control, and importantly, water quality. And the last is a regional community recreational complex. You can see more about these materials in your handouts, and we do have our Deputy Administrator, Erin Parrish, here who could answer some questions about specifics. We've heard presentations since I've been mayor from our public works staff about our needs and the major liability and the need for infusion of funding into the city's budget for our streets. We currently allocate about $9 million a year out of our budget for street reconstruction, but our need is much, much greater, closer to $20 million per year. Housing has been an issue since day one. Approximately 1/3 of the city households in Rochester need affordable housing. I think to remind people that just because we host Mayo Clinic and we do have a lot of healthcare professionals, that's just a portion of our community. There are a lot of other people who live here who struggle to pay their bills. We actually have great partnerships around housing in our community, but additional resources for the efforts that we need to make a sizable impact are needed. Our city's sales tax has previously been used to build the flood control system that we have in place. So if you come downtown, you'll see that we have a flood control system that was completed many, many years ago now. That was based on 100-year events. And we've had 4 of those 100-year events in the past 15 years. Thankfully, that flood control system was in place, but it nears breaching now, which is kind of shocking, actually. Each time it floods, the system protects $250 million in property, and we need to build the system out so we can be more resilient to these conditions in the city, and understanding that water comes into our community from the rural areas, and we deal a lot with silt and other issues in our lakes, our river and lake in the community. Additionally, the category of street and roads funding, which I know gets sensitive for some, the legislation made it so that 87 counties in the state can collect a wheelage tax, and Rochester is larger than 77 of those 87 counties. So we do have a lot of use of our roads and not access to the funding that we need to continue to repair them and replace them. And some of them, as I'm sure you know, are getting old enough that they need full replacement. No longer can they just be repaired. And I know you know that from hearing your own discussions up there about statewide roads. So our local sales tax has been quite successful. These are the sorts of tools that the legislature has granted for communities that are overburdened, and we would like to continue to use ours. I'd say, you know, I did mention that we've been responsible with the funding and successful. This is a key fiscal building block to run our city. We're not asking again for a new tax. This is a renewal. We are a Greater Minnesota Regional Center and an entity unto ourselves in the southern part of the state. And I honestly don't know how we would function without the continuation of the sales tax. It's definitely part of how we run our city in the past, and we'll hopefully be able to do so in the future. And so I'll just close by saying we chose these 4 projects. In the past, we didn't have to just choose 4. We could choose more than 4, and we had a large public process to do that in the past, and we will involve the public as we move ahead with your approval on these 4 projects. It's going to be a very different process for us, but we need to make a big impact with the resources and tools that are available to us, and we think these 4 projects will allow us to be able to do that. So we really appreciate the committee's consideration, and really hope you'll allow us this continued use of this tool to provide important services and infrastructure. So Erin Parrish, as I mentioned before, our Deputy City Administrator is here, and Heather Corcoran, our policy analysis. So if you have questions, not only is Representative Liebling potentially welcome, she is always welcome to answer them if she knows them, but she can also hand it off to some of our administrators as well. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Norton. With that, I think we'll go to member questions for anyone that's here that can answer them. Representative Vice Chair Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a quick comment, I think. The use of local option sales taxes for affordable housing would be just an expansion and a departure from the way that we, from the uses that we've kind of allowed these to be applied to. And as some of my colleagues may know, I mean, I chair the Preventing Homelessness Committee or division. I serve on the housing committee. I'm a housing advocate. Housing issues are impacting my community really profoundly. It's probably like actually the first thing that I hear about when I go and knock on doors in my community. It's the highest, kind of like the highest priority. But I guess, you know, and this is my broad kind of opinion about local option sales taxes, is that they exist as a departure from a deal that we made in our state in the 1970s about how we were going to fund the basic functions of government in such a way that folks who lived in communities that don't have big retail tax bases, that don't have big net tax capacity, you know, kind of that you can go to levy, that communities that do and don't have those features as part of their economic mix would all have access to, you know, equal access to the goods that you need to have a good life and the basic services that government needs to provide its citizens. And so, you know, local sales taxes are our most regressive source, one of the 3 or 4 most regressive taxes that we have in our arsenal. You know, the income tax is the most progressive. And so when we do general fund spending, then we're relying on a mix of sales and income taxes rather than you know, with a local option sales tax, you're just on that most regressive form of tax. But so I guess I just don't want like, I don't want anybody to be surprised that like the housing aspect of your ask is a big departure, and I'm going to have a hard time, you know, supporting it at this time, because I just feel like if we want to do that, if we want to go in the direction of using local option sales taxes for housing, then we need to have a bigger discussion about that as a legislature. You know, I am, of course, really in favor of, one of the things that I see is like that we haven't developed like the mix of revenue sources for housing that we have for some other kind of areas in our state budget, is something that I've observed. And so that's one of like my questions when I talk to people who know the state government really well. I'm like, how do I set up some of these like secret weird little pots of money for housing that we have for a bunch of other things in state government? Because I really like, we need to be doing that. We need to make you know, housing more central to the work that we do as a legislature. And so in that spirit, I really appreciate this being brought forward, because I think that like, it's a question that we need to ask ourselves, right? Is like, how are we going to sustainably fund housing moving forward when we have no dedicated source of funding for it in our budget? There is none. So it's like, I want us to have this conversation, but if we do this next year, we'll see a lot of communities that have that are lucky enough, right, to Representative Hertas's point, to have that retail tax base to go to for, you know, for goods for communities, and using that for housing. And then what about those folks who live in communities where they don't have that benefit? We need to figure out how to stay committed to our deal in Minnesota that we've had in place for 50 years, which is that we want funding to be distributed equitably. We want good things to be distributed equitably across our state, and for it not to be dependent on like whether you have a really good retail center, because it's like, that's not the fault of those people who live in a place where they don't have that, and then they shouldn't be implicitly kind of penalized in the access to good services because they don't happen to have been born in that community. So like I said, I really appreciate this, that you brought this forward, and I hope that it compels us to have just more of a conversation about how it is that we diversify those sources of revenue that we can use to meet the very real and housing needs across our state that I know you guys are feeling really acutely in Rochester. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gomez, and thank you for your work on your committee and on the Housing Committee and Representative Hausman, Chair Hausman's commitment to affordable housing too. I share your concern that local option sales tax is really not the vehicle to be spending affordable housing. To go towards affordable housing, we have to do a much better job as a state to be investing in that. If you could look at the document we have attached about them, we have a memo talking about the changes that were made in 2019 previously to me with this process, and then the changes we made in 2021 defining capital projects. Roads are not in that as well. I understand that as a regional center is one thing, but you're also a city of the first class, which is a little different. There's only 4 of you, so we may be able to continue the discussion on roads, but the affordable housing piece there, the nexus and nexus part of that and the regional part and the people that will be paying the sales tax won't coming through town won't have that access to that affordable housing because they're not staying in town. They're coming down for your wonderful recreation center and a lot of sporting events, which I know is part of this proposal as well. And the flood mitigation is desperately needed as well. But the other 2 projects I have concerns with too, and just wanted to kind of lift that up. Members, any other questions?
Well, Madam Chair,
Oh,
could I
yeah, I'm going to
respond
go right
just for
back
a
to you.
moment?
Yep, just a minute, Representative Liebling.
Sure.
I'm just checking to make sure there's no other questions. All right, Representative Liebling.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the good discussion, Representative Gomez. We really should find a time to have a couple of hours of this discussion offline. But one thing first of all, I want to say is that the people coming into our community, a lot of them are coming to work. And they are moving into our community to find housing often and to find jobs. So this isn't just people coming in for recreation and going home at night. This is, we truly are a regional center. And I don't know, maybe the city manager has the data on this, but when we talk about having a big retail tax base, remember a lot of our tax base is nonprofits. A lot of our land is taken up with people who don't pay taxes. So we're not in the same position as you might think of some other cities that you think are doing really well. The other thing I want to say is let's not let the best be the enemy of the good. We all know that we need to constantly keep working to make our system more fair and and to equalize opportunity across the state. That's what we have LGA for. That's what we've had other tools for. That's what you all have the fiscal disparities pool for up in the metro area. We don't have that down in Rochester. And other tools that have been available. So, I don't have all this at my fingertips, but I would just say that the rules kind of got changed under Rochester. And this has been something that we've relied on for many, many years. And there could probably be some adjustment. I won't speak for the council or for the mayor on, adjusting any of these projects, but this is something the city's relied on for a very long time. And I would just be very distressed to see this pulled out from under us. And with that, I will turn it over to the mayor. I'm sure she would have something to say as well if there are no other questions.
Mayor Norton.
Thank you. And Rep. Gomez, I've been working on affordable housing and housing, alongside you for a number of years, and certainly since I've been mayor. And I didn't go into a lot of the detail in my brief testimony, but we are unique. We get far less CBDG funding than other similar sized cities, and it's so frustrating. That affected us with CARES Act and ARPA dollars too. I watched much smaller communities get as much or more than we did, and that's continuing moving ahead. I noticed in the recent ARPA bills. We also have, we showed the need for 18,000 housing units through 2030. We've done several studies paid for those, particularly senior housing. And, as you know, I've been working in the homeless realm trying to get supportive housing as well. But the greatest need is for that 30 to 55% area median income. Housing options at 70, 90% AMI are also needed to address the majority of new job growth in the construction, education, and healthcare realms. But we've only had 55 units, less than 4% of the 1,300 newly constructed units in the past 10 years that were affordable. the people that come in and develop aren't developing affordable units. And I served on those committees with others in the past, to hear, even in rural Minnesota, that you can't build a home that's affordable just with the cost of construction and materials any longer. We've got to do something. And we talked about the use of roads. Those people that we're talking about using our roads are having to come to work from the smaller communities around us because they can't afford to live in Rochester. So and that's great. I mean, I think it's great for those communities outside to have people live there, but it's not giving people the choice to even live in our community because they can't afford it. So, there's many arguments, and maybe Mr. Parrish would like to address them as an expert.
Your Honor, Mr. Parrish, briefly.
Yeah, Chair, members of the committee, really appreciate the opportunity. I would just say, I mean, we know a few of these proposals are advancing the conversation in terms of where the opportunity is for local sales tax, but it is a reflection of what we feel is very important locally. We certainly could have brought you a maintenance facility, more park projects, or other items. However, we feel these items are very important. I would also say, as a regional center with not a lot of other supportive infrastructure around us, as the mayor said, we have 18,000 units we need to construct, but we have the services that folks need in order to be successful and think about affordable housing as affordable living. We have transit, over 16 cents on the dollar of people's budget goes to transportation costs. There's no other effective and meaningful transit in and around our region. And so we have this services people need to be successful. We know this is an important local conversation. We know it's an important state level conversation. And I would just maybe leave the committee with what the mayor started with, and that we experience significant overburden. We do invest significant money in our property tax, but we also invest $500,000 a year in an international airport. We invest $8 million a year in a library system, whereas many communities, particularly in the Twin Cities, do not have to do that. And we have just many other, areas that we ultimately invest in. Regional parks, as another example, we don't have some of the benefits that are accrued by others based on the Met Council services that are provided. And as well, we are the transit provider. We have to invest in that space. So, we carry a heavy load. We serve an important mission, and we would just really appreciate your consideration and ongoing dialogue in this space.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Representative Marquardt.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Maybe this is the time for me to give my annual local option sales tax speech. I've never been a big fan. In fact, when Ann Lincheski was chair, we actually halted local option sales taxes for 2 years. And I mean, the big concern is when local government aid was established, it was in state law, as Representative Gomez said, local option sales taxes were prohibited. And I've always considered local government aid as the great equalizer, recognizing that some cities that don't get it, but that's because they've got a pretty high tax base. But it's been the great equalizer. And the one concern I've always had about local option sales taxes is that it creates a greater disparity between the haves and the have-nots. Because if you've got the retail center and capacity, you have a great ability to raise revenue for all sorts of things. Where if you're a smaller city that may not benefit from some of these amenities in the larger regional centers, you don't have the wherewithal to do a local option sales tax, but yet you fall further behind because you can't do things other cities can. And so I've always taken a very narrow view, and that's why I think the work of Chair Joachim and this committee in the last few years has really been good, in that it has tried to set some guardrails to assure we don't get out of whack with kind of this equalization. Otherwise, to me, I think it throws local government aid credibility out there where it could be curtailed. People could say, all right, if that's a great equalizer, let's start counting local option sales taxes as part of your LGA formula need. And we wouldn't want that. But I mean, I think some of the important things would be things like, sewer and water and streets. Those are some things that we narrowed things down to just a couple years ago. And my thought there is with transportation, there's other ways to get those funds. And in fact, if you're a city under 5,000, under the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund, you don't get any extra dollars, where if you're a city over 5,000, you do get municipal state aid. So there are other areas, and when we start funding streets, we're also taking pressure off the real need to generate more revenue for transportation. And also with sewer and water, you've got the PFA, Public Facilities Authority, where if you're giving certain cities the authority to do that with a local option sales tax, you allow them to kind of jump the line on who's waiting in line there. So, and then you get to affordable housing. I think that's quite an expansion of a use there. And it would be, I think setting some precedents with something like that. So, these are all tough decisions. I do think the chair has done a good job of setting the parameters, and the parameters that are out there that cities are aware of, going into the process. And, my thought is either do these parameters or you somehow look at eliminating the ability to do local option sales taxes. Otherwise, it's just going to be out there. It's just going to be greatly expanded. And, we've raised our sales tax rate, I think, by 0.5% or 0.4% in the last 5 or 6 years without anyone voting to do that. But just by increasing the number of cities that have the local option sales tax, our effective rate, I think, is up to like 7.49. So, here we talk about increasing taxes. We've actually done that without the legislature saying we're going to increase sales taxes by a 0.5 percentage point. But in effect, that's what we've done. So I guess it was my time for my annual local option sales tax speech, and where I do support limiting it and putting guardrails if we're going to not only have a viable system for cities coming in and asking for these, but in my regard, if we're going to maintain the credibility and solvency of the program, I think is so valuable, and that's local government aid. So those are my comments, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Marquardt. Representative Hertas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chair Marquardt. You and I have shared many of these same ideas. In fact, you and I just had a similar conversation on these very issues on the floor just the other day. In one of my arguments why you should hear one of the bills I have. But anyway, you walked into that one. Anyway, but I'd like to emphasize what Chair Marquardt said, and that these local option sales taxes are causing greater disparities between the haves and have-nots in a regional way, because the smaller communities around these regional areas are oftentimes compelled to do their shopping for obvious reasons within those communities. And at the same time, it's funding or taking dollars out of their small communities where maybe they would like to have a hardware store or something else that would serve their needs, so they wouldn't have to drive 15 miles to the next biggest town to get some of the things they need. So, housing is a big expansion of local option sales tax. And I did mention to Chair Marquardt, I think a year and a half ago, at the rate that we're seeing all of these local option sales taxes coming in, we might as well just raise the sales tax statewide and give everybody a 0.5% and be done with it. But that's not something that I advocate for or want to do. But nonetheless, this is the trend. And thank you for sharing your data about what the effective sales tax rate is because of all of the local option sales taxes that we have been approved through the legislature. So thank you, Madam Chair. And I won't ask Rochester what your net tax capacity is either, but I think you are significant enough and large enough that you can handle many things within your own budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hertas. Any other member questions? With that, Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. And no, it's really, wish I was back in the tax committee because it's great to have these thoughtful conversations. I just would like to thank everyone for hearing the bill and just remind you, this is a renewal of a 0.5% sales tax that Rochester's had since the 80s. And we really do depend on it. And, I'm sure it's, the issue about people shopping in other places. You know, a lot of people shop online now. They don't drive anywhere to shop. I'm not how that influences all of this, but I think it does make a difference. People have a lot of choice now about where they go to shop. So just want us to think about that. But I just appreciate your hearing the bill today, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Representative Liebling. With that, I lay over House File 38. Oops, I'm at the wrong spot here. Nope. House File 3822 for possible inclusion in the Property Tax Division report. With that, members, we're going to be taking a short recess. And when I say short, I mean short. We will come back at 3 p.m. We just want to give folks times to stand up and stretch their legs, and maybe grab another cup of coffee. And when we come back, Representative Lueck will be presenting his bill. So with that, we are in recess.